Hey guys, welcome to another Life Success Factors video. I'm Craig and I know it's been a while since the last video, so I just wanted to welcome you guys back to the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below, hit the notification bell icon for more great content. And I look forward to getting to know a lot more of you as I start to post more content on this channel. Now today guys, I wanted to focus on how you can deal with disappointment. There's been a few things that have sort of happened in my life over this year that have meant that I've felt a little bit disappointed at times. I've felt like I haven't been able to achieve whatever I've set out to do. And this has resulted in me feeling down and not quite happy with where I've sort of left things or achieved in terms of my career or my relationships, or in my investments, in many areas of my life. So I reflected on this over the last few weeks, and I actually came across this article from a website called tinybuddha.com, and it actually outlines a number of ways you can deal with disappointment, and how you can use that to actually move forward and make a difference in your life. Okay? So without any further ado, I just wanted to get straight into this topic. I know that a number of you might be going through a little bit of disappointment in your lives, and I really hope that this video gives you some of that clarity and space to be able to think about, well, how do you deal with the things that haven't quite gone to plan in your life? And indeed, this year is a tough one for many of us. So I hope that it's timely. I hope that it helps you. So let's just get straight into it. So the first way to deal with disappointment, according to this article, is to let it out. Sometimes we tend to hold things in. I know I bottle a lot of things up, and this is not very healthy. I've realized that whenever I've shared a problem with someone, or shared grief or disappointment even with a close friend or a family member, it actually makes me feel a whole lot better. When you've got someone there to listen to you, it's amazing how lighter you feel, right? There's a reason why there's a saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. So this is a great way to initially deal with disappointment, is just to communicate how you're feeling with about it to someone. Really just let it out. And I've found that over the last few months, that the times that I have actually shared disappointment or something that hasn't quite gone right in my life, that it's actually made me feel a little bit better, even if I don't have an immediate solution to my problem. Okay, so that's one way, and one way that I can actually recommend for dealing initially with disappointment is to actually share that with someone, and hopefully that will allow you to get over the initial shock or the initial disappointment you have when something doesn't quite go right in your life. The article goes on to state that it's quite interesting with children, because they haven't quite been socialized and they're quite young, so they don't have the emotional maturity to deal with things like disappointment and not getting their way, that they can let their emotions out. They can share how they're feeling very easily, right? And the way they do that is just by crying or throwing a tantrum. So I'm not advocating for you guys to do that, obviously, but just think about that initial shock or that initial reaction to disappointment, and really to channel and focus that, and don't constrain yourself, right? So share how you're feeling, because that'll hopefully help you to get over that sort of initial shock. So the second way that the article talks about how you can deal with disappointment is to actually get some perspective. And this one's actually quite difficult, I think, from my experience, it's not until you've let some time lapse that you can actually pull yourself back from whatever situation you're in, whatever disappointment you've had in your life, and to really take stock and sort of see the forest from the trees. So I highly recommend this step. It isn't that easy to get perspective. It isn't easy to pull yourself out or pull yourself back from whatever situation or disappointment you're feeling. But this is, I think, a very critical item in you being able to deal with that disappointment. Okay, so, and this all starts with giving yourself space, right? So whatever you're going through, go through that process where you initially share how you feel, grieve, or let out your emotions. But then when you're ready, give yourself space. And in my professional life, when something doesn't go wrong, for example, on a project or an engagement, typically what people in my field do is we run a lessons learned workshop. Okay, and this is a very similar concept where you step back from the project or from the engagement or the initiative, and you sort of you look introspectively and you say, what went well, what didn't go well, and it's through this reflection that you can actually recognize, celebrate, but also work on things that were challenges for you. So it's the same thing with dealing with your own disappointments or things that aren't quite going the best in your life, is to pull yourself back. Because when you give yourself that space, you give yourself that ability to actually assess what's happened. And it gives you perspective. So in the grand scheme of things, a lot of what goes wrong doesn't actually matter. If there was this, I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Ray Dalio, and in his book Principles. But essentially what he said was, think about if something's gone wrong in your life, just pull yourself back from the situation just for a moment and ask yourself this question: would I be worrying about this in 5 years' time? And if that answer is no, or if that answer is, well, maybe there might be this minute chance that I might be worrying about this in 5 or 10 years' time, then it's not something that you should necessarily worry about. Or if it's something that you're disappointed about in your life, or something that hasn't quite got right, then that gives you a little bit of perspective, doesn't it, about whether what you're going through is something that you really need to worry about. Okay, so when you give yourself that perspective, you give yourself that space to pull yourself back and really assess, and objectively, right? You take the emotion out of it, and I've found that that's a great way to give yourself a little bit of space, and really objectively assess whatever's gone on, that disappointment. So the third way that this article talks about how to deal with disappointment is to know what your values are, and they call it know your own heart. And this one is, I think, equally as challenging as giving yourself perspective, right? It's not something that comes to me naturally. I inherently know what my values are. I know the things that I stand for. I know inherently how I react to things. But sometimes when we're in the middle of whatever we're in, dealing with our disappointment, it's very hard to consciously recognize and stop whatever behavior you're exhibiting, right? So if you do feel that you are starting to close yourself off, or you are unsure about how to deal with your disappointment, go back to your core values and ask yourself, am I feeling this way because of my values, or am I feeling this way because someone's told me to feel this way? And I think this is incredibly freeing and liberating, when you go back to what's important to you and you go back to your core values, you actually give yourself the license to exercise choice and freedom, right? To react in the way that is most authentic to you. And when you are your truest self, you can actually you give yourself the highest probability of being able to deal effectively with disappointment. So I know this is not easy, guys, but when you do find yourself in challenging situations, pull yourself back and think about your core values and go back to that. Always go back to your core values, because your core values will help guide you to dealing with disappointment and moving on and becoming a better person. And hopefully next time you face a challenge, you're better able to deal with it. Okay. Now, the final way that this article talks about to deal with disappointment is to practice the art of acceptance. And I love this. I love this step, because once you go through that cycle of or that circle of initial shock to grief, you get to this stage where you accept the disappointment. You accept that it's a part of life. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to be disappointed, I should say. We are going to face challenges that, quite frankly, we may not be able to surmount, and that's okay. And this is all part of becoming a better person. It's accepting that whatever has happened, and the best thing you can do is actually learn from the situation, move on, and accept that the next time you hopefully will be able to deal with whatever challenge is presented to you in a more mature way and in a more learned and informed way. Okay, because you've been through experiences and things that have happened in periods of your life where you face similar difficulties. Okay, so I think this is something that I can do a lot more of, and I highly recommend you guys think about ways you can actually accept what's happened in your life, and actually use that as a bit of a motivational tool to move forward and learn from things, and not waste the experience from the sense of personal development and personal growth. So those are the 4 ways, guys, that I've found has actually helped me over these last few months to deal with disappointment. As I said, I've got this. I've read this from an article from Tiny Buddha, so credit goes to them. And I'll link down to that article in the description below, and I'll also write up a little blog post about this on my website at lifesuccessfactors.com if you're interested in my take on it. So I'll leave the video there for you guys. Before I go, I'd ask you to please subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. It's quite humbling to see this channel grow. I remember when I had 0 subscribers, and I think I'm now up to about 27. And I know it's a bit of a slow grind, but I'm actually quite excited about where this channel could lead and the impact that I could have in your life positively. So it would be great if you can like this video and share it with anyone who you think might get some value out of it. I truly hope that this video is able to help you deal with disappointment in your life, and maybe someone who's close to you deal with disappointment in their life. It's just a few things that have helped me. So I encourage you to have a think about whether these might be applicable to you in your situation. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to check out my website over at lifesuccessfactors.com. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.